This video right here is for Christian singles who are trying to navigate relationships with as little risk as possible. In this video, I share 5 lessons I learned that might help you navigate relationships a little better and avoid the mistakes I made. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to join this family. Family, and welcome back to my little corner of the internet and well into our home too. By now, as you may know, I am a lover of love and everything relationships, but I am also wary of the fact that with relationships there is no one size fits all rules. So I try to avoid giving advice about relationships, but sometimes, like today, I can't help it. But I also try to be careful to give or rather share lessons from my own experience and my own life, but not to impose them on you, but just to give them as suggestions. And so today I'm here for my single friends because it is Valentine's Day. Now, on days like this, you have a lot of pressure when you see your friends receiving gifts and you're wondering, maybe I should have just stayed in that situation. At least I'll have someone. And then it just feels like making the right decisions is just not worth it. So I'm here to encourage you today as your sister and your friend who waited through very dry days, through saying to the Lord, I am turning down the volume on me and turning it up on you, because even if I know this person I am with, for my flesh is great, I know that for my spirit, he is not good. Now, those spells of waiting can be really hard, but I'm here today to share with you 5 things that I learned, and I hope that you can save yourself the trouble if you're in those seasons where you're making poor decisions with relationships. And I hope this will help you. So relationships can be a very tricky situation, right? Sometimes you're in these situations with a guy or a girl and it feels like it's a relationship, but you guys haven't talked about it. You haven't discussed what it is. You have not set boundaries for what it is. My number 1 rule after ending up in quite a few situationships became, if he hasn't said it, then he hasn't said it. Do not assume. That's rule number 1. So learn to set boundaries in relationships and talk about things and do not assume, because it will save you a lot of trouble. Number 2, be with the person for who they are right now. A lot of the time, you get into a relationship with a person because, and this is very common with women, so girls tend to get into relationships with a guy because of who they potentially will be. You know what I mean? So this guy may talk down at you, he may be rude to you, he may be mean to you, and then when he realizes it, he will come back and maybe say he's sorry. Take that as a red flag about character, because you can't predict growth. There is room for it, yes. I am popular among my friends for always saying that people don't change. And when I say people don't change, I don't mean 100% that they don't change. Every human being has potential for change. So let's say someone is a serial cheater, then they meet Jesus. Does it mean they can't change? No, it does not mean that they cannot change. But the chances of that change is twofold. It can be a complete 360. That can still potentially be a weakness in that person's life. So when you have a cheater who has turned a 360, remember in the back of your mind that character has already been molded, and that remains a weak point. And if those boundaries are not properly set and this person is not adhering to those boundaries or does not remove themselves from situations that easily entangle them, this will become a problem in your relationship in the future, and especially if it is a marriage. Another more common side, which is the flip side of the two, is that a person will gradually change even when they are a Christian. So all of us, even as believers, have sins that easily entangle us. For some, it's gossip. Some, it's alcohol. For some, it's, I don't know, whatever addiction or whatever sin that so easily entangles us. So it becomes a slow process of sanctification for a person to come out of those habits. Now, if you choose a person with a particular difficulty, and again, back to cheating, because it's the thing that breaks you physically and emotionally, okay? So when you choose someone and they're in the slow process of change, you have to remember that there's a lot of brokenness that will happen in the process before the person becomes. But like I say, when I say people don't change, it's because it's not up to you to decide if it will be a 360 or it will be a slow process. And whichever way, you are still standing at risk. But that's not to say you are a perfect person, because even you need forgiving, even you need patience. But there are certain basics like character that you should be looking out for. So love a person for who they are, accept them, because you don't know when they change, if it will be a 360 or it will be a lifetime of change that you are committing to. So don't fall in love with that person who you see in the future. Be with the character who you are with. Don't settle for something just because it's Valentine's Day and you have not received a gift and all your friends are looking happy. We all post all sorts of things on social media, and you can't make that the standard by which you choose your partner. Love the person for who they are now, not for who you hope they will become. Number 3. This is a piece of advice that for me was gold. It was better 10 broken engagements than 1 broken marriage. When you see red flags, flee! Don't stick around. Don't pay higher school fees when people have already gone ahead of you and have shown you what red flags are, what a bad marriage looks like. You've already seen these things. Don't pay higher school fees. Just learn from them. So there's room for you to make mistakes. But marriage, you don't want to gamble that. You want to do it right. It's better to leave a bad relationship than to stay and wait for a marriage that will 95% of the time turns out to be a bad marriage. The relationship gives you indication into what a marriage will look like. So you can't hope a ring or a marriage certificate will change a situation. So if you don't love a person, do them a favor. Leave them alone. If a person doesn't love you, do yourself a favor. Leave that person alone. Marriage is challenging enough even with a person you love. Don't do it with someone you don't love, because marriage, love, the novelty of the feelings, butterflies we feel, die down. And then that love that becomes a choice kicks in. You want to do it with someone who you love, who when you look at, this is what you want to do. And even when they make you mad, you are glad you're doing this life with them. On to number 4. A girl or a guy will always tell you what they want in a situation. Again, this is more common to women. So you could ask a guy, what are we doing? And if you pay attention, he will tell you. He will either say, we're just kicking it. I'm still trying to figure out my life right now, so marriage is not a priority. But the question is, are you listening? And another piece of advice I'd like to leave with my girlfriends is, it will not be written on your forehead that you ask the guy what he wants or what he is doing in your life. Don't be ashamed to ask, because you will save yourself time. Okay? Just ask. If the guy is doing things for you that are only appropriate for a girl who's in a relationship, ask him what that means. Why is he taking you to lunch consistently? Why is he isolating you out of every other girl? And you know in your heart that feelings are starting to bubble. So before those feelings turn into attachment, ask him. Don't be ashamed to say, I don't want to fall for you and misunderstand your intentions here. What is your intention here, so that I know if we are friends, then I can set the appropriate boundaries and not come out to lunch with you regularly. Let's do it in a group, or let me say no so that I can guard my heart. Women, we are nurturers, so we have to be protective of our hearts, because how many people will take you to lunch and dates and buy you gifts, call you until the morning, only for them to pick someone else? These were my mistakes. Don't pay higher school fees. So I'm telling you now, ask the guy, what is his intention? A guy will always tell you. But the question is, are you listening to what he is telling you? Are you listening to the answer? When you've paid attention to the answer, if your intention is to look for a marriage partner, Don't stick around for those games. If he says he's not ready for marriage, he's not ready for marriage. Walk away from that situation. If he says he wants to court you, then take the necessary boundaries to protect your heart in that regard. If your goal is marriage, make it clear to this person your intention is for you to be in a relationship that leads to marriage. If that's not where he's going, boy, bye. And that is okay, sis. That is okay. And the last one, number 5, understand the intention of marriage. And like I said in the beginning, in my intro, when you are a Christian, you know that the union of marriage is to mimic or reflect the relationship that Christ has with the church. So, husband is loving his wife the way Christ loved the church, and wife is submitting to her husband the way Christ submitted to the Lord. Okay? Marriage is not something that fixes feelings. If you are not happy before you are married, marriage is not going to give you happiness. Happiness is what you cultivate. The two of you together, it's the choices you make. It's basically, happiness is a byproduct of the choices you and your partner will make. The purpose is very strict, and God has given us in His Word the manual for the purpose of marriage. 2, like I said, marry someone you love. Because when you get married, you're not going to be feelings proof. It doesn't mean you can't fall in love with another person, or have feelings for another person, or get a crush on another person. So if you're getting married to avoid falling in love with other people, again, you've gotten the purpose wrong. Because as Pastor Mildred says, marriage is an assignment, and if you do not understand this assignment, you put yourself in problems. Marriage is not relationship goals completely that we see on social media, on Instagram and Facebook and all these wonderful platforms. It's not just about taking pictures. It's about ministry. It's about moving the gospel forward. It's about teaching about the love of Jesus Christ and His kingdom in our homes, so that we can send soldiers out into the world to go and do the same. Marriage is bigger than you and your partner and the feelings that we have. It's bigger than us. You know how Pastor Bodhi always talks about when he's doing relationships advice or teachings. He's like, that feeling when a couple is young and in love, more puppy love, they'll be like, this thing is bigger than both of us. Yes, not about the feelings. Marriage is bigger than the both of us. It's bigger than how I feel about my husband Moses. It's bigger than how Moses feels about me, because we are on assignment. So these are the 5 tips that I had for all my single friends, and to encourage you to keep waiting to do marriage God's way. I want you to know that I know waiting is hard. I was that person. I waited, I made a lot of mistakes. Relationships are not my niche, but every once in a while, when there's this season, I'm happy to come and share, because I made a lot of mistakes in staying in a relationship way too long, assuming things. I paid higher school fees, and I hope you don't do it. Just take when someone tells you who they are, believe them. Oprah always says this because Maya Angelou told her that. When someone tells you who they are, believe them, and the protection of your heart is only in your hands. I hope this year you could make the right decisions and be kind to yourself and love yourself first and guard yourself. And God is faithful. He will bring to you the right partner if you will trust Him. Thank you for staying for this video, and I'll see you in the next one. I'm sure it won't be a relationships video, because I'm very careful around these things to not give like this is the rule. Thank you for joining me. I will have to laugh and leave you. This has been Wupe.